Hello, everyone, and welcome to season two, episode 13 of the No Frills Teacher Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Camps, and joining me tonight, I have a very special guest, Maria Rose. Maria, thank you for joining me this evening.
Absolutely, Joe. Thank you so much for having me.
I gotta say, I'm very excited, and for those that are listening to this episode, I'll explain it in a few minutes. But more importantly, I want to talk about the title of tonight's episode. Teaching is an act of love. And it kind of ties in with why I'm so excited to have you on my show tonight. And really, I got to be completely honest with you, Maria. When I think about like an educator, truly is like the heart of an educator, you are the first person that comes to mind. And that's why I'm so excited to have you. And I know
Oh, thank you.
I'm probably fanboying right now over here, but it's just, I gotta ask you, like, how and we'll get into kind of your experiences and all these awesome stories you have and really share it with our listeners. But I gotta say, like, teaching is an act of love. And I think of you and I associate you with this, saying, and like, how
Well,
do you do this? Like, what's your secret?
well, I think it goes back to like fifth grade. I am blessed to know that I wanted to be a teacher my whole life. Anytime anybody said, what do you want to be when you grow up? Every time you fill it out in school, when your teacher says, what do you want to be when you grow up? I always said teacher. I always said teacher. And I never had any doubt. And what a blessing that is that I always knew. I then went to Edison Park to intern and had no idea how magical that place was going to be in my life when I first set foot in there. But I had the most amazing administrator, Charlotte Rafferty, who literally made me the teacher that I am today. But she saw something in me and took me under her wing. And she used to tease and say that I was born. And when they smacked my bottom, they said teacher. So I am beyond blessed that the Lord decided that I was supposed to be a teacher, and I just get to be that every single day. And I still, 30 years in, Thursday, I actually get to go to the school board and get my 30-year pin and certificate. I'm so
Wow.
excited. 30 years in, and I still can tell you, I absolutely love my job. I love what I do.
That's incredible. And I'm glad you kind of mentioned about 30 years because that was going to be my next question. Like, how long have you been teaching? Kind of share with
Mhm.
us, the audience. But I guess I'll ask you this question. Have you been at the same school for all 30 years?
I sure have. Yes, I have. And I've been a first and second grade teacher at Edison Park for the first 20 years of my career. We looped with our children from first to second grade or third to fourth grade. And it was wonderful. You got to really know the children and the families and know everything about them. And that second year when they walked in your classroom, I often say, you just say, hi, I love you. I missed you. Now sit down. Let's get busy. There was
Oh,
no wasted time getting to know them. So looping for me was where it was at. It was really, really awesome. And if you knew, you didn't quite have a reader yet by the end of second grade, boy, they were on target. So we've been, our principal retired, and we've been through a few different principals and several different teachers at Edison Park, but it's still the most magical is the only word that I ever use to describe it. The most magical place I've ever been. And it's still that to me beyond new principals and new teachers coming and going. But every year I get a new set of sweet little first graders walking in my door, and the majority, are not readers yet. And I get to teach them to read. What more could you ask for to be able to give a child the gift of learning to read?
It's
It's
it it's yeah, I have to completely
beautiful.
agree with you. It's something else, and I think you have to be a primary teacher, have experience with parents who I think truly understand what that feels like to have these kids come in and need help with reading or they're non-readers, then leave it reading. And I
Yeah.
gotta say, you are what we call a unicorn. that, and
Oh,
I mean that, besides being magical, because you are, trust me, you are. But what I
thank you.
really mean by that is that I feel, tell me your thoughts or, if you, disagree. I think it's uncommon today to be loyal to one school or to have that longevity because for those that are unaware beyond teachers outside of or listeners outside of the school district of Lee County or Lee County, Florida, Southwest Florida in general, Edison Park and Maria Rose are synonymous. I really do think that. I think when you think one, you
No,
think
thank
the
you.
other. It's true. And I guess I'll admit, I'm wrapping up year 19, all still in the school district of Lee County. I love the county. I'm loyal. I've been very blessed also, with my career and even, meeting my wife and all these things in the county.
Hmm.
But I've been to a few different schools. I've taught at a handful of schools over my 19 years, for whatever reasons, advancement, lateral movement, whatever it might have been. But has there ever been a time in your 30 years that you're like, maybe it's time for a change or like, I like kind of see what's out there, explore my options,
Yeah.
if you will?
No, absolutely.
Wow.
I can say absolutely not. Joe, you know me a little bit better than most. I'm a type A personality person and I like things to be in my box, and Edison Park fits beautifully in my little box. And I have just gotten very comfortable with my little classroom and the school is small. We only have 3 of each grade level. So that I think is huge compared to other schools who have 9 and 10 first grade classrooms. And that's foreign to me. I don't even know how I would survive that. So the smallness of our school plus the arts. I was a dancer, from the time I was 2 till I was 18. And so when I walked in that auditorium, we have a true, real, beautiful auditorium that Thomas Edison literally sat in and watched plays and this amazing stage that our kids get to perform on. And the teachers, in years past have run a teacher talent show where I get to actually be up on stage and do amazing fun things for the kids. And I mean, I just am like, nope, this is my school. I call it my school. It's my school. And, I love Edison Park. So no, I know it's hard to believe, but no, I've never wanted to ever try to go anywhere else. My husband is an educator as well in the Lee County School District, and so is my son, Owen. He just started a couple years ago. They both have been to high school and elementary school and made changes here and there. And that's wonderful to them. They like that. They love that. They're searching for, their perfect spot, and that's great. But Edison Park is it for me. So
Wow.
again, another blessing. I tease that, in Magic Kingdom, there's a statue of Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse. And I tease that out front of Edison Park, I want a statue of Mrs. Rose and Mickey Mouse when I retire. So that's what I put in my order.
It will be well deserved. It will be well deserved. Absolutely. And I know you are, if you don't know now, you will that Maria, Mrs. Rose is a very big Disney fan.
Yes.
I'd say, so I think that's safe to say. And in fact, and once again, I believe this is true. And if not, please let me know. You're a Golden Apple recipient
Yes.
from the
Yes, sir.
Foundation for Lee County Public Schools. Was it 2017, 2018,
2018. Yep. Hmm.
2018? And then I know your husband James followed 2019,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And kind of went that way. But with
Yeah.
Disney, and I could be wrong, but I could have sworn that after you had received your golden apple, you did take it with you to Walt Disney World.
I did take a visit to Walt Disney World, and
Okay,
all
I
around.
thought so.
Yep, I did, and I do have a photo of me and Mickey Mouse and my golden apple. Yes, sir, I absolutely did. I wanted to share it with Mickey for sure.
I love it. That is a true Disney fan. And we just, came back we went to Disney this weekend, my wife Alexis and, the kid. And we had a great time and it's really, magical. It's special. So
Uh-huh.
I thought that was the coolest thing because I'm like, when we were there and Alexis knew I was doing the podcast with you, and I was talking about it over the weekend while we were at Disney, of course. Then we're at the Magic Kingdom on Saturday. And I'm like, I could have swore Maria had her golden apple here. I think so.
Yeah.
And then I kind of was like, man, I should have brought my golden apple too.
Yes. Yeah. Mickey was
So,
very impressed. Let me tell you, he was very impressed and he was grateful and, he took a picture with me and it was awesome. And it was all I wanted was that picture with
fantastic.
Mickey. And, you know how when the Super Bowl people win and they say, I'm going to Disney World. That was
Yeah.
when I called my husband when they brought me the golden apple because I was in absolute shock. I called him and that was the first thing I said. I screamed into the phone, we're going to Disney World. And he was like, what? So I just thought that was apropos to take my apple with me and share that with Mickey for sure.
I love it. I love it. And obviously here it is. It's still stuck with me all these years later. So
Yeah.
it left an impression. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Super cool. Now, so big shock, right? You win the golden apple and, as a fellow golden apple recipient in the Academy of Teachers, I think we could attest to wonderful, wonderful program, the Foundation for Lee
Yes.
County Public Schools, Inc. People have listened to this podcast. I've tried to get as many golden apple recipients on as possible. I love hearing stories. Tell me a little bit more about your story and how did you feel besides, the excitement, the journey of the process? Because, especially with younger kids, did your students really or truly understand what was happening when you were going
Yeah.
through the selection process? Because that's, they're
Well,
young.
yeah. Yeah. Well, it was an absolute honor. My teammate's son, who I had in first grade, he was goodness, I think he was a fifth grader that year and fourth or fifth grader. And he nominated me and, they write a little sweet note about you. And he came over and read the card to me. And I said, well, you know, I have to fill out the application now because he was so special and he became a reader in my class and we just had a really awesome relationship. And I thought, well, if he took the time to fill that card out about me, and I had been nominated many, many years, almost every year throughout my teaching career up to that point, but I had never filled out the application. So I thought, well, I need to do this, in honor of him. And so I did and never thinking it was going to go anywhere past that. And then when the office called and said, you need to come to the office. There's something here for you. And I thought, what are they talking about? And I knew, we know as teachers kind of what time of the year and what month and what day that they kind of pass out you're a golden apple finalist and then what day they do the actual recipients. So I kind of knew that it was getting close to the time where they were going to name some finalists. And I ran down to the office and there was a gold star balloon and a rose. And I started to scream and they were like, what's going on? They didn't understand what's going on. And I said, oh my gosh, you don't know what this means. And so then my principal came in and, we celebrated with the kids and I sort of explained to them, I said, this is a really important award. They're going to come watch you because what is it? 12 unannounced visits of observations. And I said, they're going to come watch you. They're going to watch me. They're going to see how we do in our classroom, in our family and whatnot. And I had showed them a picture of the golden apple trophy. And I said, we could our class could win a trophy. And one of my students said, well, if you win, will we win a trophy? And I immediately said, oh, absolutely. Yes. 100%. You will win a trophy. Well, not ever thinking that I was going to be a recipient. Shocked. And that actual day when they came and brought me the golden apple, that same child said, where's our trophy? And I said, well, buddy, you got to give me a minute. And I actually did. I ordered them all their very own gold apple trophies. And they
Oh,
still,
wow.
now they're going into eighth grade, bless their sweet little hearts. And they all still have them. And it's something really, really special to them. But they really bought in. They really wanted to show what they were learning and what they had learned and how much we had accomplished. So they bought in for sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it because I had, well, my golden apple class, fifth graders, it's all, teach fifth
Mm-hmm.
grade. So they, they're older, a little bit more mature in some ways and understood, but they were probably as giddy as a primary student. I
Yes.
think when I had, received my golden apple, we celebrated and it was obviously it was during that 2021 school year, kind of that COVID slash hybrid year. So it was a little different how we got,
Mm-hmm.
received ours. But it, it was something but I love seeing the little kids get excited, especially one of my favorite things. And for those that are not familiar with the way that the foundation of Ridley County Public Schools does the Golden Apple, we do have a banquet, and they have the stage, and the recipients are up there and being celebrated along with the finalists and the teachers of distinction and all educators who celebrate education and
Mm-hmm.
educators, which is fantastic. But
Mm-hmm.
you have a student introduce you and say a little something before you go up and give your speech. And I think it's the most adorable thing is when the younger
Yeah.
kids are the
Yes.
primary students are
Yeah.
introducing. It's like
Yeah.
I was like versus
Yeah.
the
It's
older
precious.
kids.
Yeah.
And which was this the same student, or how did you go about selecting the student that introduced you? Because I do remember your speech, and the student was
Yeah.
there. Were they vying for trying to get a spot, or did you kind of have
No,
someone?
they didn't. I don't think they didn't really know, and I didn't really say much about it. But actually, I taught for many, many years with the student who introduced me. I taught with her mom. She was a teammate of mine for, 8 to 10 years, I think. And so she was pretty much my teacher best friend. And so her daughter was in my class, and I picked her to be the person who, and I knew her from the moment she was born. I went to the hospital to see her and held her in my arms from the moment she was born. So it was really, really special that both she and her mom could be with me that night. So that's how I picked who it was going to be.
Oh, very nice. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's very sweet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the following year, so 2019, your husband, James,
Yes.
he was a Golden Apple recipient as well.
Yes.
So,
Amazing. Awesome. Just awesome. And I was in his room. I said to him, I really want to be with you regardless of whichever way it goes. He's like, okay. And so I was with him in his room, and it was just glorious to be on the other side of it. And as you said, the foundation celebrates education and teachers. And it was just so amazing to watch him because he's unbelievable as a fourth and fifth grade teacher. So it was really, really special for he and I to be together for that, because he wasn't in my room when I received my award. So to be there with him was great. But yeah, we talk a lot about Golden Apple experience. We still go to the socials and the gala, and it makes you feel so wonderful and so special, because they do celebrate education in such a positive light when there's all this other negativity out in the world about education and teachers and students and whatnot. The foundation finds the positive, and they still celebrate the wonderful educators that are especially, in Lee County, and the students, and all of the amazing things that are still going on, regardless of the other stuff that's going on, out in the world, the negativity, the positive reinforcement of teachers. It's really cool to be out in the audience and be a part of that.
I agree 100%. And I always move whenever I attend the banquet, previously before I won, received my Golden Apple, or, afterwards, you leave inspired. I really do believe that. I do. That's the best way I could describe it, because it's usually friends or family. What's it like? Or how, is it a good time? You leave inspired. You do. You feel rejuvenated as an educator. Like, you could go out and conquer the world after you listen to some of their speeches. You do.
Yep. And that's what I say about the whole Golden Apple experience for me too. Because at that point I had been teaching 25 years. So I had been in teaching for a long time, and it really did rejuvenate my love for teaching, and really made me focus a little bit more on what I was doing in the classroom. And so it was, again, another positive aspect of going through that process for me in my classroom, because I had been teaching for so long already that it just kind of jump started it a little bit. So it was good.
I got to say, I'll be honest with you. So I was a finalist when you were a recipient. I was a finalist when James was a recipient. So after James, you had both received your apples, and, we got to 2020 and 2021, all that stuff. I was like, well, the good thing is that both roses already have an apple. So I feel better about my chances now. But in all seriousness, though, it's what I love about it. And once again, if those out there heard previous episodes, I talk about the friendships made and the connections and the networking with fellow educators who share a passion for education and for students and for learning. And that's really how we got to know each other on a personal level,
Yes.
you and I, and James and I,
Mhm.
and many others, that are friends and, and peers and colleagues. And it's wonderful. But that's in the past. I want to fast forward now to this year because there was also a very big, huge accomplishment, an honor bestowed upon you, well deserved,
Thank you.
in addition
Yes.
to being a Golden Apple recipient. And you are the 2024 or 2023, 2024 school year Lee County Teacher of the Year. And
Yeah.
which
So cool.
congratulations, another,
Thank you.
wonderful,
Thank
well
you.
deserved. Can you tell me a little bit more about that experience? And was it similar to the Golden Apple experience? Different?
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about that. That was
Um,
another amazing accomplishment, by the way.
well, yeah, another shock as well. So thank you very much. But they sent out an email and, it was a little bit different because teachers in all over Lee County were able to nominate each other basically. And so I was nominated and they sent me an email and said, here's the application. And I thought, well, let's go ahead and do this. And honestly, I looked at the questions and I was like, okay, yeah, I feel all of these things. They were, easy for me to write. I'm not an essay writer, but I was like, all right, yeah, I can do this. And so I did. And once again, not ever expecting, I've always witnessed other people winning teacher of the year. And I thought, that's really cool. That's really cool. And at this point in my career, I thought that's kind of a neat thing. Let's go ahead and go for that. And I never really thought much more about it. And then, that you get an email that says, congratulations, you moved on to the next phase. And the next phase was, I think it was a letter of recommendation from my principal and a resume for which I have not made a resume ever, except for 30 years ago, so that was kind of fun. I was like, oh, I need to make a resume. So I enlisted the help of James, to help me make a resume. So that was kind of fun to go back and look at the things that I had done and accomplished throughout my career beyond teaching at Edison Park. That was real easy. Teaching at Edison Park, 1991 to present, so that was real easy. Or 1993 to present. 91 is when I interned. And then you move on and there was another email that said they were an interview. You had to do an interview. And that's when I got nervous. I was like, oh boy, interview that. Okay. I'm going to try. And to be honest with you, I don't remember what they asked or what I said. But one of the things they said after the fact was that they could hear the passion and the love in my voice and in my answers. And so I thought, okay, well, that's wonderful. I bragged on my kids. I have two students who started at, zero. They were not reading at all and really couldn't tell me more than single sounds of letters. And I teach a really awesome phonics program and it really has made so many readers turned students into readers right in front of my eyes. It's magical again. And so I bragged about them and I think I cried and she was like, I could just feel your passion after the fact. She told me, I could just feel your passion. I was like, all right. And then I kept telling my principal, they haven't observed me yet. I was used to Golden Apple where they came 12 times, 12 different people came and they observed me. It was a big
Yeah.
deal to watch you teach. And so they weren't, that was never one of the things that they said. So I thought, well, okay. So I just kept telling my principal, what's next? Do they come to watch me? When do they come watch me teach? I kept preparing my kids for it because I wasn't sure if it was going to be a surprise or what. And so then I get an email that says, congratulations, you moved on. This was after the interview. And it said, you moved on. We're going to come observe you teaching on, I think it was December 19th at 8:15 in the morning. And
Oh, wow.
in my mind, and I know you know how this feels, Joe, in my mind as a teacher, I thought 3 days before Christmas break, you're going to come observe me.
Exactly.
And it was also our day of field day. It was our field day. And
Oh,
I
wow.
thought, well, okay. And I told my principal, I said, listen, if I can teach at this day, 3 days before Christmas break and the day we're supposed to be out at field day, then I can teach and I'm good, and I kept saying, but we have field day. And she said, don't worry. They'll be here at 8:15. You'll be done by 9. No problem. Well, lo and behold, I I was ready. Ready. My kids were ready. I was ready. And in walked the superintendent. And I was like, wait a minute. He's not, he's not here to observe me. And then our tech person came in with her camera, and then a whole bunch of other people
Oh, so
came
you
in,
do,
and
yeah.
I said, oh my goodness, you're not here to observe me. This is it. And my mom, who was the 2022 state volunteer of the year,
Wow.
bless her heart. She volunteers every day in my class, every single day, all day long. So again, one more blessing for Mrs. Rose. She was in the room and I said, did you know about this? And she's like, nope. And James snuck in around the corner. I didn't see him.
Oh,
My kids were like, what's going on? Cause then I was crying. And so then they're like worried about me. Why is my teacher crying? What? I thought somebody was going to watch us learn what's happening. And so then we went through the whole process, and James, out of nowhere, the superintendent says, he told me that he had just had a conversation with my husband, and then turned around and there was James. So that right there was the best moment of the entire
awesome.
process when James was there. It was just because he wasn't there for the golden apple. So it was really, really awesome to share that with him. And then they shake your hand and say, congratulations, you're Lee County Teacher of the Year, which I couldn't believe. And then we started the process for the Florida Teacher of the Year, which is quite a process. So I still can't believe it, Joe, to be honest with you, but it's really cool.
That's so awesome. I'm just over here listening. I got this like big smile on my face just hearing this story. It's so touching and moving, and to know what it's like to have your spouse there and celebrate with you. As you
Yeah.
know, I was fortunate to have that with Alexis,
Yeah.
celebrate with me for the golden apple, and to know that. But that's got to really be kind of surreal. You're expecting one thing, like an observation,
Yeah.
and they completely throw you for a loop, and they come
Yeah.
in, and then you see the head honcho, the big guy come in,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it's
And I knew,
real, it's
yeah, I'm
happening.
like, wait a minute. And it was my principal who she called the people downtown and said, listen, she keeps talking about having an observation. So let's make her think she's going to be observed, and then we'll surprise her. So it was I told her, I'm like, kudos. That was great. It was perfect. I had no idea. And so because we were ready to I was ready to teach our phonics lesson, and my kids were ready to learn. They were like, I said, I thought you were here for an observation. And they were like, well, okay. And I said, all right, boys and girls, here we go. So I proceeded then to teach a lesson. It was really, really cool. And the kids did awesome. And I think I only did a few minutes. And then, you know how it is. I
Oh, of
couldn't feel
course,
my feet.
yeah.
My feet weren't touching the ground. I really don't even know what I was saying. And but the kids really loved the fact that they got to showcase what they thought they were going to show to the people who were in the
That's
room.
so
And they
cool.
were very complimentary, and it was very, very cool. And then outside and had an amazing field day, and we actually won tug of war. So Mrs. Rose is superior in tug of war. So there you go. It was a good day.
It was a good day. So everything was coming up roses, as they say.
That's right.
Now, have you had an opportunity as far as the state level goes? Because you do go on for state teacher of the year to meet fellow educators, fellow district teachers of the year. Is that something that will happen over the summer? Has already happened? I would think that'd be really amazing to network and meet a whole new group of educators beyond, our district.
Actually, I went to a baseball game with my students to one of the Mighty Muscle games. And while we were there, we were celebrating their reading. They each won a free ticket to the baseball game. And while I was there, the Collier County Teacher of the Year threw out the first pitch. So I actually did get to meet her, which was very exciting. So I do know one person. And then there is also a Facebook 2025 Teacher of the Year Facebook group that we are all a part of, all 74 of the district teachers. So we've met each other on there, just kind of sharing our little stories. And then all told, we will get to meet each other face to face in July at the Commissioner of Education Roundtable event and gala. And that's at the end of July.
That sounds like an awesome opportunity to be able to meet and network with fellow educators, especially, district teachers of the year, and kind of just talk about how things are. Because overall, we all know what it feels like to be an educator. But I do think that each district is slightly different kind of in their
Yeah.
needs and what they're experiencing. So we kind of live in our own little bubble of our district.
Hmm.
So we don't
Hmm.
really know what's happening in, Hardy County, Hendry County,
Right.
Hillsborough, and
Right.
so on. So to
Yeah.
have that opportunity to see, oh, this
Yeah.
is what you're experiencing, or how do you handle this situation in your
Hmm.
districts versus how we do it, say, in Lee County,
Yeah.
and bring, and, it sounds like bring these ideas and these conversations back to the local level, and then,
Yeah.
disseminate and share out with district leaders and then with educators, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is. And honestly, the little Facebook group that we're all part of, everyone has been so positive. It's like that golden apple group. Everybody is so positive about education and so positive about what they do, and they love what they do. So I'm looking forward to really feeling that positive energy with a group of educators, like I did with Golden Apple when we went down to Collegium at Sanibel, just like that.
So now I anticipate that James will be teacher of the year next year, of course, right?
Well, that's what I told him. I'm like, all right, your turn. Yeah, that's
Is
right.
there? That's some big shoes to fill there. Gotta get on
That would be awesome. Yeah, that would be
it.
very cool.
So you have not taught past second grade? Have you at no upper elementary? It's
Nope. Nope.
see, once again, unicorn. I feel because
Yeah.
sometimes I feel people dabble, and is there a reason why, Maria, you choose to stay in primary, or I know you're very passionate about
Yeah.
teaching
Yeah.
children how to read,
Yeah.
and kind of another question, also two-part question. The next part would be, there's a lot of emphasis obviously on testing grades, intermediate, a lot of pressure on schools and teachers, but
Hmm.
as a former primary teacher, and I think we agree with this, and let me know your thoughts. We have to have that strong foundation first. And how do you feel about that? Is that what keeps you
Yeah.
in primary?
Well, I tease my kids and I tell them, my students, that once you're taller than me, I cannot teach you. So that's what stops me at second grade. So that was my tease to the kids all the time. But yes, the foundation, we are finding even more so how important the foundational skills for children are. I mean, let's be honest, we're competing against a computer, iPad, TV, YouTube. So the children are not sitting on their parents' laps reading like they used to. And so I find that is my passion. Like you said, I've got to get these children reading fluently before they move on even to second grade. And that was a hard transition for me because I knew when I looped that I had another year. Like if they weren't quite ready yet, I had another year to get them going. But now that I'm only a first grade teacher, I put it on myself that, oh my gosh, they've got to be reading fluently. I say before they walk up the stairs to second grade at Edison Park, because as we know, the skills and the objectives and the expectations of these children have come down to the grade level prior, and they are, in some cases, overwhelming what the children need to be able to do. So where it used to be second grade was more reading and more independent reading. And, the second half of second grade was where you were an independent learner. You read to learn. And then first grade was learning to read. But now by the time they leave first grade, the expectation is when they walk in that second grade door, they are reading to learn independently. And that is a lot for a 7-year-old. So I really, really, I push my kids, and we have found, as I said, that the phonics program that I use is perfect, a perfect foundational skill. It lays the foundational layer of that ladder. Learning to read is like a ladder. You have to have the bottom two rungs before you can do anything else. You can't skip to the third one. It just isn't going to work. So my job, my passion, my love is to give the children the tools to learn to read, and then watch them learn to read is just an added bonus to what I get to do every single day. I think in my Golden Apple speech, I said it was like watching a child learn to walk. They fall down, they
Yeah.
stand up, they fall down, and then, you don't even know what happens, but all of a sudden they just take that one step and a couple steps, and then they're running. and you cannot catch up with them. And that's exactly how a child learns to read. It's a few letter sounds. It's you watch them figure out, oh, I put these sounds together and that makes a word. And then they're sounding out every single sound in a word. And, it takes them 4 minutes to read one page in a book, but then they start to memorize this is this word and then, wow, when I sit in my room, cause first grade silent reading is not silent. So when
No,
I
not
sit
at
in my
all.
room, no, there's no silence. And when I sit and I listen, and mom and I just this year, there was those same two that I was talking about earlier, but they, all of a sudden you hear them and they're reading out loud, but they're reading, like fluently reading. And she looks at me and this year she said, Miss Rose, and I'm like, I hear it, and it's, there isn't anything better. It's
No.
better than any gold apple sitting on the corner of your desk. Let me tell you, that child learning to read, I know now that I can send him to second grade and he's going to be okay. And he's going to, eventually graduate high school and get a job and be okay in life because he knows how to read. Wow. I get to be a
It,
part of that.
it's really amazing. And I think unfortunately at times it is overlooked because we get fixated on school grade and what our data looks like and all these things. And well, how are they doing on the FAST and how are they doing
Mm-hmm.
on the FSA before that? And how are they doing on the FCAT before that? That if we don't have children that can read or read fluently or
Yeah.
comprehend what they're reading,
Yeah.
none of that matters.
No. And I have had this year, I had two, I begged, please send them down. Please send them back. I have two third graders, two third grade, sweet, lovely little girls. And they come to my room every day. And guess what? They learned what sounds letters make. One of them was an ELL student, English is her second language. And she now knows what sounds the letters make. And she's putting sounds together to make words. And that is so much more valuable for that young lady than sitting in a classroom getting a passage that she can't read at all.
Yeah, it's hard, especially like I said, as
It is so
however
hard.
many, like, with, even my own fifth graders over, throughout my career and having students that are not on grade level or that are reading still at a first, second grade level.
Yeah.
And you feel for them, you support them, you accommodate them and all those things, you use your
Yeah.
strategies to support them. However, you see them struggle and just reach that point of frustration that is just overwhelming because they
Yeah.
still can't blend
Yeah.
sounds together. They
Yeah.
can't segment
Yeah.
words and all those
Yeah.
things. And,
It breaks
um,
your heart because the pressure and, the third, fourth and fifth grade teachers are tasked with such high expectations for obviously for the student learning, which is wonderful and for their reading and their problem solving. But without those bottom two rungs of the ladder, that poor child is really, really tasked with a challenge. And that's difficult because you have to move on. You
yeah.
have objectives and things that you as the fifth grade teacher, you need to teach that. You have to move on and you have to teach. Miss Charlotte Rafferty taught us to teach to the top. She always used to say, teach to the top and the others will rise. Teach to the top. And I firmly believe that. They will rise. They will, it's going to be okay. They're going to, oh, okay, I get it now. But without those foundational skills and I, it's my absolute goal in my life to just teach as many kids as I can how to read because I know they can do so much with that gift.
Now, what would you say? And so now you're talking 30 years, right? You're going to get your 30-year pen, veteran primary teacher, and you've seen a lot over these 30 years. Like I know my 19 years, I feel like so much has changed. Just really the landscape of education in general. And let's, be honest, there's a lot of teacher burnout. I feel like it's ramped up, it's amplified over
Mm-hmm.
these past few years more so, as that seems to me that way. And teachers are leaving the field in droves. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
mass exodus, whatever you want to call it. This is
Yeah.
happening. How do you, what would be your advice to an educator that is new to the profession? Like, is there a secret to longevity? Is it something that like keeps you going? Like, and if you ever encountered or mentored someone over your career who gets to that point where they're frustrated and like, I think maybe I'm not cut out to be a teacher, or like,
Hmm.
Maria, how do you do this? And how do you do this at this level,
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
this many years? What kind of advice can you give educators that are out there that are new or at that point of, burnout and to keep
Yeah.
going, kind of push through?
Yeah. I think the first thing I would say is I absolutely understand. I absolutely understand. And you're right. It's hard. It's really, really hard. I think the second thing that you have to really work on is getting the parents to be a partner with you. Without the partnership between you and the parents, it's a one-sided fight, and it's an uphill climb for sure. And, that, as I said, with technology and whatnot, even parents are feeling that with their children. I mean, I'm a parent of two children who are in their twenties, but, I lived through it where I was fighting a computer game or a television show, and, we've got to focus on this homework and we've got to get this done. And parents they're working so hard and everything is so expensive, and their time is limited. So I think opening up that communication with parents and giving them tools. I've had so many parents who have said, what can I do? What can I do? And I made a YouTube channel for that reason, because we were home learning during COVID. And so I had made all these videos while I was teaching from home. And I thought, well, what should I do with these? And my amazing son, who knows how to make a YouTube channel, made a channel for me, and I uploaded all those, and I've since put, me saying the sounds of the phonograms and things on that YouTube channel. And so that's one way. It's electronic, but they're learning, kind of a thing. And it's me, so it's their teacher. And, it's really kind of fun because the kindergarten kids think that I saw you on TV, they say. So, I mean, that's great for your self-esteem, but,
Yeah, of
that,
course. Yeah,
that
you're a celebrity.
partnership. Oh yeah. That partnership with parents, I think is, more than half of our battle. If we can get them to help us at home, because we really only have them 6 hours, and then you've got a special and a lunch and a recess, so it really does. Time is very limited. And I know that especially in the secondary classes, third, fourth, and fifth grade, I know that you all feel that crunch even more than we do, because there's so much content that has to be delivered and taught, and the children have to just stay with you, and their stamina isn't ready for that yet. So in my experience in first grade, my kids, not only do I teach them to read, but the love of reading. So I've got kids who are literally sneaking out a book during the math lesson, or they're taking a book to recess, or they're taking a book to lunch, or their parents email me and say, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I can't get enough books for them to read, and I have to, let's go to the library and get a reading card, and they can check out 15 or whatever it is at the public library. And, that was the answer to her prayers this year. And that is huge. The communication with parents, they need help, and they want to hear your ideas on what they can do. I also think that within a school building, if a staff supports each other, we need the support too. Teachers need to help each other. Teachers need to cheer on each other. Teachers need to say, attaboy, good job, keep it up. We need to hear that, just like the kids do. It's, from administration, from your partner, from parents, who, you name it. I always tell anyone who asks me, what should we do for teacher appreciation? And I'm like, write a note. I love a handwritten note from a parent that tells me thank you. That's the best thing I can ever hear. Or that their child loves to read and they read a book before they went to bed last night, or whatever. Those kinds of things are really, really special to educators. And those are the things we need to hear. And that's why I think both of the programs that I've been able to be a part of with Golden Apple and Teacher of the Year, they are still positive about education. So that's really been helping me stay positive. We have to stay positive, and we have to support each other, because it's a lot. There's a lot of negativity about education out there, and, parents are tired and the kids are tired, and coming out of COVID, it's been different for all of us. That was a time when, I mean, look, my goodness, they were home learning through a computer screen, and it was so stressful for all of us, and the parents were trying to work and the kids had to be home alone. It was just a lot that we had to build upon. And, I think some of the students are still suffering from what they lost during COVID. And so that's also an uphill climb for them and for us. And so we just have to be kind and supportive and cheerleaders. We really got to cheer each other on. Like, it's going to be okay. In my personal experience at school, I have teachers who have asked me, can I come and can I watch? Absolutely. I would rather you come into my room. It's so much easier for me to show you rather than explain it. Let me just show you some of the tools I have in my teacher tool belt, and we can share because I've learned things from brand new teachers too. Some amazing things that I incorporate into my classroom. So I think supporting each other along with the parent, communication and partnership are huge.
I honestly, I couldn't agree more. I think the support, it's so crucial that we do support one another. I love how you had mentioned about some of your colleagues wanting to come and watch and not
Yes.
only learning from you, but like you had said, you also are learning from, your colleagues as well
Mm-hmm.
and being willing to, adapt and, always willing to learn. And I think that goes a long way in longevity, being successful in the classroom, or being successful in this career as an
Yeah,
educator and not kind of
absolutely.
stuck in one way. I think you do need to adapt and evolve over the course of your career and versus being resistant to change.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard. You're talking to a teacher who taught on an overhead projector and now I teach on a Promethean board. And I mean, they're
Yeah.
two totally different things. And, thank goodness my husband is an educator can help me with those things because he's really good at all that technology stuff. And I go, what? How do I do that? What do I click? What do I do? And then those younger brand new teachers, that's all they know. They're not afraid to click on things where I'm worried if I click on this, what's going to happen? So those kinds of things they've taught me and just simple, teachers are really the best at walking into somebody else's classroom and looking around and taking notes. Like, what do you got in here that looks, oh yeah, I love that. Let me write that down. Let me get that back to my classroom. We're really good at stealing from each other.
Absolutely. I know that whenever I attend some sort of PD, and if I go to another school, another campus, I'm doing like a visual assessment
Yes.
within the first 5 minutes, like looking around and just scanning the room for, I like this. I don't know about that. Yep, I want to take this back. And I take down little notes like, yep, I'm going to steal that, borrow that, and kind of put my own little spin on it.
Absolutely. And, now that I've been in my career for so long, when I go to different PDs, it's the best PDs are the ones when I can actually take something literally back to my room immediately and use it. So those are the ones that I'm like, yes, I love that. Let me take that back. So we're really good at stealing, like I said, stealing from each other. And as long as you're open to new ideas, like you said, it's hard, especially as I've been a teacher for so long, it's hard. For some things to me are non-negotiable. The phonics program that I use, I'm like, it works and I'm sticking with it. And there are some things we've added and tweaked. And just this week, a teacher was sick and her class I literally taught her class and my class with the substitute because the sub didn't know all of the sounds and whatnot. And so I said, just bring them in. And her kids said one thing different than my kids. And I loved it. And I was like, oh, I'm taking that. Yeah, let's add that in. One more clue to the sounds that these three letters made. So I loved that. And I told her when she got back, I'm
Yeah.
like, they taught me something new. It was really cool. So
And that has to feel really good, especially for, it's the colleague that hears this, saying, wow, like kind of have, an esteemed colleague like this or, teacher of the year, all those things like, well, that's good. I think that's a confidence booster too. And it makes you kind of feel good about yourself.
huh,
We had talked about rejuvenated, all those
yeah,
things. So, so you're teaching and your husband's teaching and you said your son, he's a teacher as well now, right?
yeah,
Owen.
yeah. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so, we just kind of keep it in the family is like dinner
Yeah.
conversation all centered around education. Like what's going on here?
Yeah. A lot of times it is, James teaches fifth grade. So the challenges are different for the two
Yeah.
of us. I'm at the beginning of the learning and he's at the end of the elementary learning and getting him ready for middle school and whatnot. But yes, there is a lot of back and forth. And Owen, I'll say he was in high school. He taught AP Calc and geometry, all of the things that I'm like, ew, no, thank you.
No,
And,
thank you. Yeah, I
yeah.
agree.
And he went to elementary and he tried elementary. He went with James to elementary school to teach fifth grade math. And he has since decided he's like, yeah, no, high school is for me. So see, he's one who doesn't mind going out of the box and trying new things. And so I was proud of him for that, but he decided that no, that higher math, he has a software engineering degree. So that higher math is all for him. He loves that, all of that stuff. So he's going to go back into high school math and James and I are going to stay where we are in elementary. But it's really cool that James and I get to share the golden apple experience together. And I call it the teacher prom. We get to go to the teacher prom
You did.
every year, every year together and, get dressed up, and it's really fun. And we were high school sweethearts. So we did actually go to our high school prom together. So that's kind of fun that we, got to
It's
go to
awesome.
what I call the teacher prom. But it's also a blessing, I think, because we absolutely understand what educators are going through, and having to, what obstacles we have to jump over these days. James was not always a teacher. He was a business owner prior to becoming a teacher. And so the first half of my career, the first 20 years, he wasn't an educator. So he didn't really know exactly what I was talking about, or the frustrations that I was having, or the concerns that I was having. And so then when he became a teacher, it was really cool that we could sit and talk about the same things. And he completely understood that teacher tired is a real thing.
It
He
is.
understands that now. So it's cool. And it's a blessing for us that we're both educators, and we can kind of support each other through, if we're having a rough moment, or what about this? And what should I do for this? And we are really good at sharing those ideas with each other and kind of building each other up. And, who's counting that we have 9 days left?
Not us.
No, right?
It's awesome. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to
Oh,
you
Joe,
this
thank
evening,
you.
and I could go on and talk to you for hours. Really do when I, get you here. I know there are many more wonderful things in store for you. Your
Thank you.
illustrious career, and yep, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on James next year. Teacher of the year, and then Owen for Golden
Awesome.
Apple. I kind
There
of
you
see
go.
how the Rose family goes.
Right. No
Uh,
pressure, Roses.
not at all. I'm gonna message him later privately, be like, listen, buddy, you got a lot to live up to now. But it's been wonderful. And for those listening to this episode, the title says it all. Teaching is an act of love. And you could hear, I understand what you were talking about now when you had mentioned the passion that was heard when you had your interview for Teacher of the Year, because I honestly could hear that passion also
Oh,
coming through this conversation when you were talking about your children learning how to read your students and just seeing them grow in those bottom rungs of the ladder. And it's inspiring. It really is. And thank you. I always say I want to be, Maria and James Rose when I grow up.
thank you, Joe.
So once again, on that note, this is season 2, episode 13 of the No Frills Teacher Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Camps, and joining me once again this evening is the lovely Maria Rose. Maria, thank you for your time and for your contribution to this field of education, this career, this profession of ours.
Thank you, Joe. It's absolutely my pleasure. And I really have enjoyed talking with you.
Like this conversation, make sure to leave a comment or subscribe to the No Frills Teacher Podcast. You could check us out on Podbean or any other major podcast platform. All right, that's it for this evening. This is the No Frills Teacher Podcast. I'm Joe Camps. Have a good night.